Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now we have an AFC Division Round game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs. Who do I think is going to win this playoff game? Let's break it down. Now the Jacksonville Jaguars are 10-8 this season, and Doug Pederson has done a really good job with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've gotten better and better every single year behind Trevor Lawrence, and this year has been their best season yet, and they made the playoffs, and they won their wild card game against the Chargers to be in this game. And they started out their season with a rough loss at the Washington Commanders. They lost that game 28-22, but then they were able to bounce back and beat the Indianapolis Colts 24-0. And then they won at the Los Angeles Chargers 38-10. And then they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles 29-21. That was a tough loss. The Eagles were a really good team. But then they had a terrible stretch, losing games to the Texans at home 13-6, the Colts on the road 34-27, the New York Giants 23-17. They lost to the Denver Broncos 21-17. So in the middle part of the season, the Jaguars really struggled. Then they beat the Las Vegas Raiders 27-20 to stop the losing streak, and that helped turn their season around. Then they lost at the Kansas City Chiefs 27-17, but then they beat the Baltimore Ravens 28-27. Then they lost at the Lions 40-14. Then they beat the Tennessee Titans on the road 36-22. Then they beat the Dallas Cowboys 40-34 in overtime. That win really helped them make the playoffs. Then they won at the New York Jets 19-3. Then they won at the Texans 31-3, and then they beat the Tennessee Titans in the final game of the regular season 20-16. And the Jacksonville Jaguars looked like their season was over in the middle part of the season, but they were able to rattle off all those wins at the end of the regular season and make the playoffs. And then they beat the Los Angeles Chargers 31-30 in the wild card. And again, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a much improved football team, and they had a fantastic season compared to the way they've been playing the last few years. And quarterback Trevor Lawrence had his best year in the NFL yet. He threw for 4,401 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He is really coming into his own. He is showing the talent that he displayed at Clemson, and finally it's starting to come out now that the Jaguars have a better team around him. And he played really well this season. He did have 4 interceptions in his first playoff game against the Chargers, and that was not his best performance there, but he still found a way to win, and overall he's had a great season. And running back Travis Etienne has 1,236 yards and 5 touchdowns and 316 receiving yards. He's had a great season for the Jaguars, and he's been a great teammate for Trevor Lawrence all these years at Clemson, now at the Jaguars. And wide receiver Christian Kirk is 1,186 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's had a really great season as well. And on the defensive side of the ball, linebacker Foasadi Oluwakan has 197 total tackles, 136 total tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. Safety Rayshon Jenkins has 123 total tackles, 76 total tackles, a sack, 3 interceptions, and 3 forced fumbles. And linebacker Devin Lloyd has 120 total tackles, 63 total tackles, 3 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries. And Jacksonville's offense has had a really great season behind Trevor Lawrence, and their defense has stepped up from where it's been the last few seasons. They still need a lot of work on that side of the ball, but they definitely have improved and helped Jacksonville win some games this year. Now on the Kansas City Chiefs side, they are 14-3 this season, and Andy Reid's one of the best head coaches in the NFL. He's done a great job with the Chiefs year in and year out, and they've had a fantastic season this year. And they started out their season with a great win over the Arizona Cardinals on the road, 44-21. Then they beat the Los Angeles Chargers at home, 27-24. But then they lost at the Colts, 20-17. That was a bad loss. But then they bounced back and won at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 41-31. Then they beat the Las Vegas Raiders, 30-29 at home. But then they lost to the Bills, 24-20. That was a really tough loss for the Chiefs. Then they beat the 49ers on the road, 44-23. That was a great bounce back win there. Then they beat the Tennessee Titans in overtime, 20-17. Then they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars already this season, 27-17. Then they beat the Los Angeles Chargers again on the road, 30-27. Then they beat the Los Angeles Rams, 26-10. Then they lost at the Cincinnati Bengals, 27-24, and that is the last time they've lost this season. Then they won at the Denver Broncos, 34-28. Then they beat the Texans on the road, 30-24 in overtime. That was a close win. Then they beat the Seattle Seahawks, 24-10, and then they won against the Denver Broncos, 27-24. And in the final game of the regular season, they won at the Las Vegas Raiders, 31-13. And the Chiefs had a lot of close calls in some of their games toward the end of the season, but again, overall, they've had a fantastic season, going 14-3. And getting to have a bye before playing the Jaguars. And quarterback Patrick Mahomes, he had a fantastic season in the NFL again. He threw for 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He is definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's been great year in and year out, and a lot of people thought without Tyreek Hill that Patrick Mahomes might take a step back this year, but he still had a fantastic season. And running back Isaiah Pacheco at 830 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 130 receiving yards. He's been a surprise this year. Pacheco's definitely outperformed what a lot of people thought he was going to do this year. And tight end Travis Kelce had a 1,000 2,338 yards and 12 touchdowns. He's one of the best receiving tight ends in the NFL. He's had a great season like he always does, and he's definitely helped out Patrick Mahomes on the offensive side of the ball. And on the defensive side of the ball, linebacker Nick Bolton had 180 total tackles, 108 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble. Cornerback L'Jarius Sneed has 108 total tackles, 75 solo tackles, 3.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. And linebacker Willie Gay has 88 total tackles, 51 solo tackles, 2.5 sacks, an interception, and a fumble recovery. And Kansas City's always had a great offense under Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes. Their offense is great year in and year out, but their defense helps them win games as well. And their defense has had a really solid season, and that's what's helped them have a great record this year. So who do I think is going to win this AFC division round game in the NFL playoffs? The Jacksonville Jaguars, they have been the surprise team. They have outperformed what a lot of people thought they were going to do this year. Trevor Lawrence has had a great season. And yes, in his first game in the playoffs, in the wild card game with the Chargers, he threw 4 interceptions. And that shows that he is a young quarterback that's not used to this stage in the playoffs. But still, he was able to find a way to win the game, and the Jacksonville Jaguars defense helped in that regard as well. And Doug Pederson, he has a team that is inspired, and they want to win this game. And they've had a lot of games this year that they've come back and won, so they are definitely capable of winning this game. But it's going to be really tough to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. This game is at the Kansas City Chiefs because they are the higher seed, and also they had a bye because they were the number 1 seed, so they had another week to rest and prepare for this game. The Jaguars, I think that them having a game already played might help with the adrenaline, but with the Kansas City Chiefs having that week off, they have more rest and preparation. That's going to really help the Kansas City Chiefs in the second half. Once the Jaguars probably get a little tired, the crowd's really going to help out the Chiefs as well. And I think Patrick Mahomes, he has way more experience than Trevor Lawrence. He's been in these playoff games before. He's been in these high-pressure situations. I think Mahomes is going to play really well. I think the Kansas City Chiefs defense will be able to slow down Trevor Lawrence some. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-28. I think the Jaguars can win this game. I think they're going to have a really solid game, and they're definitely capable of winning this game. Trevor Lawrence and his team have a lot of fight. They have definitely shown the NFL that they are a really capable team, and I think on both sides of the ball they're going to give the Kansas City Chiefs some fits, but I think that the Kansas City Chiefs, they have more talent on both sides of the ball. They've been in this situation before, but I think Andy Reid's team is going to be a bit more prepared, and I think that the Kansas City Chiefs offense will be able to score on the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, and I think that the Chiefs defense will be able to slow down the Jaguars offense just enough, and I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-28 in this AFC division round NFL playoff game. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think the Chiefs or the Jaguars are going to win this NFL playoff game and why, and I'll see you next time.